If you're just starting out making cheese at home, you'll quickly run into one big question. Which starter culture should you use? There are so many kinds, and I wanted to find out if the differences between them were actually noticeable. So I decided to experiment by making one cheese 4 times, each time using a different starter culture. So in this video, I'm going to show you what I made, what surprised me, and what it might mean for any cheeses you make. It's a little sketchy. But hang on, what even is a starter culture? A starter culture to cheese is like yeast is to bread. When you add yeast to the flour and the water, it eats the sugars and produces carbon dioxide, which is what makes the bread rise. Starter cultures for cheese do a similar thing. They eat the sugars in the milk and produce acid, which kicks off the process of turning milk into cheese. Generally speaking, you can break starter cultures into 2 categories. Freeze-dried cultures, which are precise, packaged for a specific job for a particular cheese. There are oodles of variations. Then there are the natural cultures, which are more traditional, and they're cheap or free, and they can be more unreliable and more interesting. Now, a lot of cheesemakers will tell you that natural cultures make superior cheese because the cheeses are entirely unique to the maker and location, which means that they may have more complexity and flavor. But I've been making cheeses with natural cultures for years, and I'm not convinced. In fact, in recent months, I've started to wonder if my different types of cheeses taste too similar to each other. If I were to make cheeses with freeze-dried cultures, would they taste more flavorful? And would the differences between the different types of cheeses be more pronounced? I didn't know the answer, and thus, this experiment was born. Same cheese, each time with a different culture. The cheese recipe I am making throughout this experiment is Fat Cow, my version of a German-style cheese, but richer and creamier and more indulgent. Right now, the cheeses are out in the cave, ready to be tasted, and I am about peeing myself with excitement. But first, I'm going to show you how I made the cheeses, but only one of them, and then a few highlights so you can see the differences. To simplify the cheese-making process, I use the cream method, which is my 5-step framework for making any cheese. Now, the C of cream stands for conditioning and culturing the milk, which is where this whole experiment starts. Before your milk can become cheese, it needs the right environment. For all 4 cheeses, I used about 7 gallons of full-fat milk from our lovely ladies out back, plus 2 quarts of heavy whipping cream from the grocery store. So first up, I heated the milk to 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the milk reached the target temp, or before if I was feeling frisky, I stirred in the culture. Now, cheeses that are cooked to a higher temperature have one type of culture, and cheeses that are cooked to a lower temperature have another type of culture. Fat Cow gets heated to 108 degrees Fahrenheit. So technically I should be using a thermophilic culture throughout. However, for cheese 1, I use clabber culture, which is just raw milk that has been fermented at room temperature. Clabber is mesophilic, and so therefore it is not ideal for this cheese. Well, I'm pretty sure the final cheese will be plenty tasty. I'm not expecting this cheese to be the winner, but we'll see. For cheese 2, I use my plain homemade yogurt. Yogurt is a thermophilic culture, so technically this one should be better. But what does that mean? For cheese 3, I used a freeze-dried culture, TA52. It's a thermophilic culture, so it is heat-loving. Because this one is so precise, it should be perfectly suited to this cheese and get a better result. And then for cheese 4, I used a blend, TA52, but a reduced amount, a little bit of Floridanica, which is a mesophilic culture, but it's supposed to give buttery flavor and potentially some small holes, gassy development. And then I used a pinch of Su-Ka-Su, because that's supposed to impart a little bit of nuttiness. So technically, this cheese should be the most flavorful. So now we have cultured the milk, but we are still in the C stage of cream because we are not quite done conditioning it. Because I added cream that has been ultra pasteurized, I need to add a little bit of calcium chloride to strengthen it so that it can form a stronger curd. So now we are ready for R of cream method, which stands for rennet. For each cheese, I diluted a scant teaspoon of rennet with a little water, and then I added it to the milk. Once the milk firmed up, I have now reached the E stage of cream, which is where we're going to expel the whey. And in this case, it's done via stirring and cooking the curd and washing the curd. I cut the curd into 1/2 inch cubes horizontally, north, south, east, west, and then vertically. Let the curds rest for 5 minutes to firm up, and then stir them gently for 10 minutes or so to start expelling the whey and to break up any large lumps. To wash the curds, first remove half of the whey. If you want to make whey ricotta, save this whey. And then slowly replace the lost whey with 160 degree Fahrenheit water or thereabouts, just really hot water, until the curds are 108 degrees Fahrenheit. Once they reach the target temp, continue stirring them for another 10 to 20 minutes. They are done when they stick together when squeezed and then crumble apart easily. Let the curds rest in the whey for a little longer to acidify, 10 to 20 minutes. While cooking the cheeses, I tasted the curds. Since I couldn't do a side-by-side comparison, it was hard to say if there was difference between them. But my own scientific observation is that the Clabber curds had no flavor, the yogurt curds had a bit of a tang, the TA52 curds were sweet and mildly chalky, and the blend had the most flavor. It was sweet and just tasted better. Once you're done expelling the whey, drain off the whey. And now it's time for stage 4 of the cream method, which is where we assemble the cheese. This stage is where something happened that I was not expecting. First, you put the curds in the mold and you flip them periodically. You don't need to use much pressure. This whole process is about 18 hours. It's a longer press time. They are acidifying. And once out of the press, then I brine the cheeses in a saturated salt brine, about 4 hours per pound. Now, cheeses 1 and 2 behaved absolutely normally, but cheese 3 puffed up in the brine. It feels a little puffier than the other cheeses, like it is just plumping up more. A puffy cheese can be a sign that gas is forming in the cheese, either from unwanted bacteria or because you used a particularly gassy starter culture. So I researched it really quick and it said, no, this culture does not produce gas in cheese making. So did I have a problem cheese on my hands? Because this was definitely not normal for me. And then the same thing happened with cheese number 4. It is puffed just like cheese number 3, and it feels like it's swolled up. I think it's just like the other one. It is deflated considerably, so I'm not worried about this one at all. I'm actually not worried about any of them. So I did what I typically do. I just carried on. I air dried the cheeses and then moved them out to the cave. Look at that, how it bounces up. Compared to the other ones that are sitting flat, this one is like, boo! So we'll see what that's about. And then it was time for stage 5 of the cream method. The M stands for maturing. Since I would be cutting into these cheeses soon, I decided to skip waxing or vac packing to save on cost and just do a natural rind. But because I didn't want too much mold to grow in the cheeses, I also opted to do a washed rind, which means that I wash the cheeses, the exterior of them, with a light salt brine about twice a week as I flip them. Now in the cave, cheeses 3 and 4 settled down after a couple days at colder temperatures and they started to look exactly like the other ones. But then I noticed another surprise. In spite of my twice weekly washes, cheeses 1 and 2, the natural cultured cheeses, started to develop a fair bit of mold. They felt a little gritty on the outside and they looked pretty gnarly. But cheeses 3 and 4, on the other hand, stayed almost entirely mold-free. The freeze-dried cultures, they do not have the mold. They're like much cleaner, which I find interesting. They developed this soft, gentle, orangish rind that just felt good and it looked pretty. It was a little bit like a baby's bottom. Aww. So at this point, cheeses 3 and 4 are much more well-behaved. That brings us to today, the tasting. Let's go get those cheeses. Woo. Today on tasting day, cheese 1 is 49 days old and cheese 4 is 37 days old. So there is nearly a 2-week difference between them, but I figure that doesn't really matter too much. They're all kind of in the same time period. I put tape on the bottom so I don't forget them. All right, so here we are, cheeses 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 has like this yellowish gunk right there, and it's not as sticky. It's a little scaly and dry. 2 is similar, but less blue. Actually, no blue, almost no blue. 3 feels gorgeous. It is like plump. There's a give to it that probably comes from that gassy stuff that's happening in the brine. And it smells like bee linens, because obviously there's bee linens, it's orange. And then this one, the 4th one, is a little bit of more gritty texture to it. It's a little bit of white mold on the outside. It's not quite as satiny, silky plump as the other one. We're gonna start with cheese 1. To clean this one up, I made a little salt brine. I'm gonna wash this up fast because I want to get that mold off. So that one's cleaned up enough for now. All right, it's firm, it's quite solid. Looks exactly like what I would expect, and it smells exactly like what I would expect. It's really firm. It might be a little bit firmer than what I expected. It tastes less creamy than I expected. There's not much flavor. It's sweet, it's good, but it's not as rich as the original fat cow that I made. There's the rind. That has a little bit of funkiness. That has a little bit more flavor, like a little bit of the tang. You can also see this is a little softer and this is firmer. This could be because it's a young cheese that needs more time to ripen. It feels like it would ripen from the outside in because of the bee linens. Cheese 2, I am not gonna clean up. Just gonna cut it. Also very firm. Well, this one has less holes for sure. It doesn't smell like much of anything. Oh, it looks like it squishes more. It looks like it might be a little creamier. This is a little creamier, a little bit softer. I like this texture better. There's not much of a flavor difference though, the rind. The rind is fine. This one is better than that one, only in the texture difference. The flavor is about the same, but texture goes a long way. Now for number 3, the one that blew up like a balloon. I'm expecting a lot of holes in this. Oh, it goes through a lot faster. Oh my gosh. Is that a problem? I don't know. It's definitely gassy holes. I've never gotten this. Never. It's not right. There's a, it's just not right. If this is all the same milk, this is all done at the same time and my milk is all good. And I've been making lots of cheeses that are totally fine. So it's gotta be the culture. It's a little sketchy. I don't wanna get sick. Let's try number 4 now. This is gonna have the same problem, I think, but less. Oh boy, here's hoping I don't get sick all weekend. This is firmer. It has holes, but less. Guys, this is turning into advertisement for natural cultures. Does not smell as good as my yogurt and clabber culture ones. Does not have the right texture. There is that nuttiness from the Sucasu or the Floridanico or something. It has more flavor than number 3, but the texture is wrong. You guys, natural cultures win. Now the thing is, if I get sick, I won't know which cheese made me sick. Can you come taste them for me? See what you think about this one. Number 1.
It's nice. It's creamy.
Number 2 is creamy. Do you prefer this one or do you prefer this one?
I'm probably the first one.
You prefer the first one?
Both good.
But they're both good. Do you want to try this one?
No.
Okay, so this is number 4.
Rubbery.
How's the flavor compared to these?
A little bitter, maybe.
Bitter? I don't get bitter. To me, it just tastes a little bit like brown, like mellow, like nutty.
Let me smell that one. I'm not going to taste it.
Does it smell weird?
No.
Okay, don't eat that one. And then if I get sick and you don't, we know it's number 3 that makes us sick.
So you eat more of it?
The flavor's good. It's salty with this one and very mild. So you like the clabber, I like the yogurt.
I like them both.
This one to me is more fat cow.
I agree.
So what did I learn from this? Well, actually, fat cow handled both thermophilic and mesophilic cultures perfectly fine. Clabber and yogurt were great. That tells you something about how much leeway you have when you're using a natural starter culture to make a cheese. The freeze-dried ones I thought would have a more interesting flavor, but they did not, and their texture was not as good. Cheese number 3 and 4 that both had the TA52, I wonder if that culture was too old. That means that in cheese 3, where there were no other cultures added, maybe the bad bacteria in the milk, because there's both good and bad bacteria in all milk, maybe because it was weaker, it did not acidify properly, and the bad bacteria caused problems. The 4th one that had a much smaller amount of TA52 and some other cultures, that helped to catch it, so there was less of a problem, even though it still wasn't great. Maybe that's what happened. Either way, I'm going to be throwing out that TA52. Should have used brand new culture to do this experiment. As for the natural cultures, they had a better texture, they had a better flavor. They're just all around better in this case. And neither of them are wrong. I could have done either one, then it would have been fine. Does my stomach hurt yet? I don't think so. I think I'm okay. Should I stop eating today? Okay, so this experiment is pretty incomplete. It would require much more extensive testing to arrive at any real conclusion, but I do have a few hunches. The rubbery texture of cheeses 3 and 4 is probably due to the gas development and not necessarily to the culture. The mild flavor of all cheeses may be due as much to the cheese's young age as to the cultures. And because the TA52 was expired, perhaps it didn't properly acidify the milk, which allowed for for the bad bacteria to thrive. If you want to keep building on this, I did a massive experiment over the course of a year where I made the same cheese 9 different times and I tweaked different parts of the process to see what would happen in the final product. So watch that video next and happy milk slinging. I hope I don't die.